Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Super Cinema. I know it's been a little while since we have done this, but we are back to talk about not only Loki, but the future of the Marvel Universe and Phase 4. Let's get into it. All right, guys, we are back. I am here with my man, Mr. T. Sherry.
What's up?
What's up, my man? So let's go ahead and get right into this thing. Let me go ahead and share my screen. That might be helpful. Here we go. Marvel Phase 4, Loki. I think it's a little ironic now that you see the Super Cinema background logo.
Yeah,
Looks a little
look,
familiar, huh?
yeah, looking a little intergalactic.
Yes, and I just want to start this off by saying I know we haven't done this in a while. There's been some big things going on, one of which, congratulations, we have a new T Sherry in the
Yes, sir.
world, in the universe.
In the universe, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, my man.
Thank you. He's the
Big round
next
of applause.
he's the next nerd. He's the next geek in the family. So
Yeah, most likely.
Theodore sharing. Welcome.
Absolutely. So let's get into this thing. We got Loki. If you could describe this series into one word, how would you describe it?
Um Jesus. One word. I can't describe this show in just one word, only because my emotions for this show were kind of all over the place. So when we first came in, I was excited but kind of confused as to what could be going on with Loki as a show, because the last that we saw off that he got yoked up by Thanos and killed. So I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of confused coming into it. And then when I started finding out the foundation, they kept throwing, wrenches in, kept throwing different wrenches in. So I was just like, okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this concept that that there is an organization that's all powerful, and that is pretty much managing events throughout the course of history. That everything that we knew was already structured. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to wrap my head around that, and then the fact that there's variants or multiple versions of ourselves was another thing. And then we find out that Loki, Tom Hiddleston, our number one Loki, isn't the only Loki. And then not only that, but he's a female. There's a version of him that's a female. So I was
Yeah,
just like, okay, so we get this
and the
lady Loki.
alligator.
So at the end of the day, this show was I don't know, it's door opening, if that's even a word or two words to describe a
No,
show.
I like it.
Yeah, door opening.
Yeah. If I had to describe it in one word, I would have to say, oh, 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 wow.
Wow. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, that's exactly.
So,
Wow.
yeah, man, basically you described it, just the same way I would have. A lot of cool stuff going on, and it did a really good job of just keeping us on our toes and asking those questions in between episodes like, "Oh, what's happening next? What's happening next?
Hmm.
Who knows?" Going into sort of like the end of the show and even like midway, a lot of these other shows, there was, especially WandaVision, there was a lot of fan theories that
Hmm.
just did not pan out.
Hmm.
And two big theories that I was seeing, especially towards the end of the show, one was people were saying that maybe the OG Loki was behind everything because of, I don't know if you saw this theory that he didn't really die because
Hmm.
he's not left-handed, and when he tried to kill Thanos he used his left hand, and
Yeah.
then classic Loki ended up saying, "Oh, you're going to be able to do projection so well that
They can trick the Mad Titan himself. Yeah.
exactly."
Yeah.
So that was a big theory, and then the other big theory, of course, was Kang the Conqueror because it just made sense.
Hmm.
And it looks like they were right on this one, man. They casted this guy, what's his name? Jonathan Majors.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe even like a year ago at this point, talked about him being in the next Ant-Man movie, which is like 3 years out.
Hmm.
And when I saw this casting, I was like, you know what? I don't know this guy, but I'm hearing that he's good.
Yeah, yeah, that's the same thing. I feel like he's just now making his appearance in Hollywood. I for one have not seen too many things that he's been in, but the reviews about his performances have been good. So, when I first saw that casting in Ant-Man, I was just like, okay, we can expect him soon. But I didn't expect it to be this soon. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
me either.
And then another thing is that when they kind of introduced him, they never really said who it was. So he was kind of like dancing around it. They said, "Oh, what's your name?" I've been called a many different things, a conqueror and stuff like that. So they're kind of like hinting at it. And I thought that was kind of cool how they never really officially gave him the title. But
Mhm.
this guy, the one thing that I couldn't really like wrap my head around was the performance itself. Like I said, like I heard a lot of good things about it, but the way he was acting then, I was like, he's not acting like a bad guy. You know what I mean? He's kind of
Yeah.
just nonchalant, like talking to Loki's like, yeah, I mean, this is what it is. And he's like kind of explaining himself. And the whole build up to that, I was kind of like, he got caught. The Loki's won. They got to his doorstep. They're able to finish this off. But he kind of was just like,
Yeah.
nonchalant about it and not really like backing himself into a corner, trying to like, trick his way out of it. So I was like so focused on that, I wasn't really listening to what he's saying. So I had to watch the final episode a couple times, and I started listening to what he's saying, and I was thinking like, what if he's telling the truth about everything that he's saying? And
I think he
Loki even
is.
tried our Loki was trying to do like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should hear him out. But Lady Loki was just like, nah, this is it. She was like passionate about this from the jump, and sure enough, she did what she had to do. But I started looking into Kang more, and I was like, why was he acting like that? Why was he acting like that? And I started listening to what he was saying more, and he said it. He's like, yo, I at 1,000 years in the future, I figure out this technology, to not only time travel but to travel between different dimensions. I connected with these other versions of myself, brought all of these different technologies, pretty much became like the smartest person in the world, and he was able to just like manipulate timeline. But then he, started going into war with himself. There's these different variants of himself, possibly one that's an alligator, who knows? And they had this big all out war, and this guy won. So for eons, he says he's just been sitting there manipulating this timeline as the good guy. At the end of the day, like he's a good guy. So I think that moving forward, seeing him again, but different variants of himself of Kang is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, definitely, man. Here's some things that I want to bring up real quick, and then I want to talk about that too. Is to kind of finish out on the Loki show. I thought this right here was a really cool moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think this right here is going to show potentially Loki might have a lot more powers than we thought he did.
Mm-hmm.
He might be a lot more powerful. And then back to what you were saying with this guy, when I was looking into it as well, they were saying that this might be the version which is known as Immortus.
Mm-hmm.
The director said that not necessarily, it's like kind of, but then also kind of he who remains. Um, but yeah, he just was like, listen, you got me. So what? I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you what's going on. They didn't want to believe him, but
Yeah. And he told him, he was just like, listen, you guys were, smart enough to outwit me to make it all the way here. You guys are more than qualified to take my position over and carry out my life's work. If not, you can kill me and we're just going to end up right back in the same position anyway, because
mhm,
that's how the timeline works. That's how time works. I've just
yeah.
been sitting here, snipping all of these stems on this branch of time to make sure that other variants of myself aren't crazy. But at the end of the day, I'm inevitable. Like Thanos said, this guy Kang is inevitable. It's just a matter of time
Mhm.
until he makes his appearance. So one thing that I did like about this, and I think that it kind of helped me out with wrapping my head around who Kang was, is Rick and Morty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like
was literally about to say he's the Rick Sanchez.
he is. He's just without the drinking problem. He's Rick Sanchez without the
Yeah.
drinking problem, but he's able to travel to different dimensions. He's cool with his other selves. Bouncing ideas off each other. Even had a citadel. They have a citadel of Ricks. Now they got a citadel of Kangs, and we have
Yeah.
to actually see the location. So I think that being able to know about that like background of interdimensional travel and stuff like that, that buildup kind of helped me wrap my head around this. And they even brought on the director and the creator of Rick and Morty to help write the Multiverse of Madness for Doctor Strange. or
Wow,
something
I
like
didn't
that. So
know
that's what I
that.
mean, something along those lines. So I know that the one thing that I thought of, like, as I started diving deeper into who Kang was, I was like, yo, this guy's Rick Sanchez. That's
Yeah,
pretty much who he
essentially.
is.
Yeah, except it seemed, well, from what he was explaining, it seemed like, okay, yeah, I helped me and the different versions of myself help develop all of this until the point where we all just started beefing with each other.
Yeah.
And then we
Hmm.
all just started kicking each other's asses, and then we destroyed each other's universes, and it got to the point where I was the one who remained, and it seemed like it was the good one.
Hmm.
Well, now Sylvie, Miss Lady Loki, just messed all that up.
Hmm.
So who knows what we're gonna see in the future? Are we gonna see Alligator Kang versus Alligator Loki?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows what we're gonna see? But it looks like they just kind of opened up. Before, it was just that one branch of time,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
one solid timeline, which was the or the Marvel
The
Universe.
MCU itself, yeah.
Yeah, and now we got the MCM,
Yep. The
the Marvel
multiverse.
Cinematic Multiverse.
And it's so crazy how we knew this multiverse was coming just by the name of Doctor Strange itself. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? All the leaks and all the rumors we've heard and castings we heard in Spider-Man. We know that we're getting all the other Spider-Mans and stuff like that. So now they're introducing this multiverse, but now they've introduced, it all makes sense. They pretty much just connected the dots, like why this is possible. It's because they're variants, they're
Yeah.
variants of each other. So going back to the Loki show itself, I felt like during the episodes, there was a couple episodes that stood out. I was just like, this episode is cool. It's action packed, and there's other episodes I didn't really respect and understand until the end, when I was just like, the reason why they're doing this is because they need to drill in about these variants, about
Hmm.
these different timelines, about how crazy these different timelines are, how Loki as a kid killed his brother Thor, and then another one with the black Loki, how he was like a destroyer. He beat Captain America and Iron Man. I mean,
Hmm.
we thought that they thought he was lying, but that could have been a possibility. He could have been
Hmm.
telling the truth. And then there was even the OG Loki, the one that you had in the last slide, how he recreated this Asgard to distract that anomaly that was able to just destroy all of time and space itself. Um, but that leads to another point, that what he did, he said that he was able to cast another entity of himself that was so crazy that the Mad Titan himself believed it. Like, what if Loki did that in our universe, in the MCU that we saw? That could have been a
Still could have.
possibility.
Still could have. It still could be a possibility. He might
Hmm.
not be the one
And
behind all
actually,
of
it's not
this.
even a possibility. It happened. We know that it happened. It just didn't happen in the timeline that we witnessed. It happened
Yeah.
in a separate timeline. So, which is cool, because that leads into, like, the start of this multiverse, this
Hmm.
this next chapter of Marvel, and how they're able to not only just introduce pretty much whatever they want at this point, because all these different branches, but they have a way to destroy it. They introduce that little weapon where they can literally destroy branches at a time as they want, as the TVA wants.
Yeah, that
So
pruner, that little thing where they and they
exactly,
destroy that
exactly. So
universe.
leading forward, I know we have a bunch of movies that are already hinting at this multiverse, but
Hmm.
I think, like, what do you think one of the biggest movies that are coming up that we're gonna get, that's gonna lead into this multiverse?
Well, we'll get right into it. Actually, one last point I'll make is I really like how Marvel is breaking this thing down, where not only are they explaining it like in detail in this show, but they also do it visually, to the sense where you see one line, one little branch on the TV, and
Mm-hmm.
then now you look at something like this on this visual, and it's just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So that really kind of goes, wow, this is just
Yeah.
branching out all over the place. So that being said, we're going straight in to Marvel Phase 4. And this is
Mm-hmm.
something that I want to bring up, because this is the original Marvel Phase 4 announcement. So we had
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow, Eternals, WandaVision, Loki, and it's all the same projects. But if
Mm-hmm.
you notice, the date is a little bit different. Obviously, we had, COVID-19 shook up the world, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure we've heard about that at nauseum.
Mm-hmm.
But we see Black Widow 2020 didn't happen. All this stuff got moved. But look at WandaVision, spring of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Loki, spring of 2021. Falcon Winter Soldier, fall of 2020. It looks like they kind of switched some things around. Falcon was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be before WandaVision. It was supposed to be the first show. And then also Multiverse of Madness was supposed to come out in May. I know spring is I guess before May. May's is it May or June? What is it? June is the start of summer.
I
So
think yeah, I
yeah,
think
June
end
is
of
the
May
start
is
of
like the beginning of summer.
so Loki right here on this little timeline. I don't know if this was made by somebody else, but it's looking like Loki was going to be after Multiverse of Madness. So I don't know if that means anything for the movie of Multiverse of Madness, but it
Mhm.
seems like right now it's pretty black and white that this is going to be leading into this multiversal event.
Yeah, the one thing about this is I don't see Spider-Man on here.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
I know Spider-Man is going to be like I guess the big one, the first movie that we're
A big
getting
deal.
that's going to be introducing this. So
Yeah, so
I
here's
think
kind of the updated one. This was at I think it was like at the beginning of the year, but they even changed this up a bit just with the
mhm,
first two projects. Black Widow and Shang-Chi. I learned
mhm.
how to say that recently. I didn't know how to say that.
Nice.
So yeah, those obviously changed, but Eternal still has the same date, Spider-Man still has the same date, and the rest of them
Mhm,
from what I understand, besides Black Panther has a new name.
mhm,
But as far as these go, right now, I mean, bro, we could sit here and talk for like 3 hours about all of this stuff. But what
mhm,
I really want to get into are these 2021 projects, and
mhm.
then the leading up into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And then obviously, in the future, we're gonna go deep into these other ones once these others play out. So
Yeah.
that being said, let's get into it. I know you've seen this movie.
Yeah.
And anybody watching right now, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie, Black Widow dies.
Yeah. She's dead.
Yeah, she's dead. Quick thoughts, what'd you think? And then also, do you think that what's her name? Elena or something?
Mhm.
You think she's just gonna be the new Black Widow?
So I think that she's gonna be like Black Widow, but she's gonna be
White Widow?
yeah, White Widow. She's gonna be in pretty much the same. She's gonna be a weaponized Russian assassin, but she's not gonna work for Shield. She's gonna work for another entity. But we're still gonna be seeing the crazy jujitsu flips and the landing, the Black Widow landings. So it's not like we're not losing that type of character,
Mhm.
but it's just gonna be a different cast, I guess. My overall thoughts for the movie, I think that this timeline, the COVID timeline, really messed things up because I can't cap. While I was sitting there watching the movies, I forgot that she died. So I'm sitting there watching, and my little brother goes, "Yeah, of course they're gonna make her look awesome. She's already dead." And I was like, "Oh, that's the timeline really messed me up." Taking like the 2 years off, I was like, "Wow, that is kind of." And I know that they wanted to drop this movie even beforehand, but going into it, I wasn't crazy about it. You know, I love Black Widow, I love Scarlett Johansson, but I think that everything that we got was stuff we've already seen before. And the thing that I was most excited for was Taskmaster, to see somebody that could take in everything that we've seen from the Avengers and pretty much be a bad guy and have her
Mhm.
fight pretty much all the Avengers wrapped up into one. And we barely got that. Um, I think that
And then they did a
uh,
whole identity gender swap on him too.
yeah, they did. And the two things that I did appreciate was one, the fact that this movie took place during after the events of Civil War, right?
Mhm.
So we knew that Captain America was hiding in Wakanda. We know that some people were locked up on the raft, but we didn't know where Black Widow was. They just said she went missing, and then she comes back with the white hair. So the whole time that she's missing, she goes through this crazy event, like this whole family reunion, and then she ends up buying a box of hair dye. And I was like, oh, okay, that answers the one question.
Yeah.
What happened to her hair? But and then she kept everything under the wraps. Like didn't even tell the Avengers, like, yo, just so you know,
Yeah,
I
that's
took
what
down the
she's
red
up
room
to.
and did all
That's
this.
that's what she does.
Yeah, she just keeps to herself, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that Scarlett Johansson and the character itself deserved this movie. I just think that it was dropped at the wrong time. You know,
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
that
honestly,
especially this was like a phase three movie. Everything that we got with phase four, we every movie was, you know, nuts. We getting like Black Panther, we getting all these Avengers movies, Spider-Man movies, and then you got Scarlett Johansson and
you
Black
mean so
Widow,
so you mean this is more like a phase 2 movie?
more like phase two. Yeah, phase
Yeah,
two.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
So this is what I'll do. I'll disagree with you a little bit. I mean, I agree with that point. I do think this is like a phase 2 type movie, and phase 3 was just so insanely epic.
Mm-hmm.
that it was kind of like we almost like took a step backwards
Mm-hmm.
with it, but I liked it because, dude, I've just been like a Marvel crack fiend over here, just really like deprived for the past year. So
Uh-huh.
it was nice to just get some Marvel action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just knowing the fact that these guys are in the universe. I should say these girls because the movie was basically all girls.
Yeah.
And yeah, they really, really drilled that in. But they kicked ass.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they did. You can't take that away from them. And I thought
hey,
that the one thing that I did read upon and I really liked, enjoyed when I was watching it is the chemistry between Florence and Scarlet, like as the sisters do. Like they're like
hmm,
they know like how badass they are, but they're still like cracking jokes on each other. Like I said before, she's like, "Why do you always do this hair flip thing? Like it's so cheesy." And then she
yeah,
was like, "Well, that's like my big sister." So you see her trying to mimic her too. So she like still looks up to her. So she was trying to do it, but she was like, like grossed out by it. But you still see that chemistry between the two. So I was
hmm,
like, I appreciated that. And then she was like, when they were having the conversation, she was like, I never bought myself anything. You like this vest? It's got all these pockets. And I was just like, like little scenes like that didn't even have the action was I feel like was what I appreciated the most out of that movie.
yeah, definitely. Something that I want to bring up that you brought a point like right at the beginning and talking about this movie was whether or not she's gonna be in the future, this and that. I want to know what my girl Dreyfus is doing.
She's
Um,
she's
from
recruiting.
yeah, from what I
She's
understand,
being Nick Saban right now. She's trying to
yeah, she's
she's
trying to get
recruiting a
those
team of
those
her own Avengers.
those corn fed.
Yeah.
Um,
She's
yeah,
already got knockoff. She got knockoff Cap.
mm-hmm.
Now she's got knockoff Black.
Yeah, people are talking about her being Madam Hydra and whatnot.
Mhm.
As far as theories and stuff go, this was one of those ones where I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna sit
Mhm.
back and just let this one play out.
Yeah,
Let's see what she's
exactly.
doing. If I'm gonna guess, I think that she's gonna make some sort of a team or something. I'm thinking that Elena or White Widow, whoever, is gonna
Mhm.
play a part into the Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
But maybe whatever people that she recruits are gonna have to do with the Captain America 4 Sam Wilson Captain
Mhm.
America. What do you think?
I think that yeah, I think that I didn't think that before, but now that you've just said that, I think that that probably be the premise of Captain America 4 is this
Hmm.
Hydra, this um reinventing of Hydra coming out, Captain America's number one nemesis. That it only makes sense. But I know that at the end of the post credit scene, for Black Widow, when she was visiting her grave, uh, Julia Dreyfus, she came up and shows like, yo, this is the guy who's responsible for Black Widow's death, and shows him Clint. So I
Yeah.
know that Hawkeye is she's either gonna be teaming up with Hawkeye or they're gonna be fighting each other. I'm not sure. And that's the one thing I like about these Marvel shows is I feel like I don't know too much about it going into it until the first episode wraps. I'm like kind of blind about what's good with these shows. So
Hmm.
looking forward to that. I know we got a couple months for that.
I mean, if you would
Um,
have asked me before Loki came out, like, hey, what's this Loki show gonna be about? I would have been like, oh, Loki just doing Loki stuff. We've seen him for so long, and then this completely was just something else,
yeah,
talking
I
about
yeah.
time and this and that. So yeah, that's exactly right. Like, who knows? And like I said, I'm down for the ride. Another thing about Madam Hydra, whoever this character is when she was talking to Elena, they were talking like they've known each other. She was talking about something about a raise, like
Mhm.
they've been doing business. So I'm interested to see that relationship that's going on. But like I said, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah,
that's gonna be my guess.
yeah. Because now that thinking about it, like we said, the events of Black Widow took place after Civil War, which is a while ago. Then
Hmm.
we know after the what happened with the Infinity War is when all this is taking place because she was at her grave.
Yeah.
So we know that it's been some time. So she could have been working with her from the jump, or as of recently, or maybe pre-snap. We don't know. So like you said, it'd be cool to see how that relationship kind of plays out and more details unfold.
Yeah, definitely. So, getting into the next project, we have the Shang-Chi. This is another one that I listen, I'm a comic book guy, but I know nothing about this guy.
Mm-mm.
And I'm along for the ride. I'm down to see
Yeah.
whatever. I've seen you brought up a good point the other day to me where you said it looks like they may be fighting in Madripoor.
Yeah.
Um from the only thing that I understand is I'm pretty sure his dad is like the real Mandarin
Hmm.
and not the fake one that we saw in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And the 10 rings are the ones that initially captured Tony Stark.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Marvel, bravo again for planning something so far so long ago and then reimagining it now. But yeah, like we see him in the background. It's like on a flag, the same symbol for the 10 rings when Tony Stark got captured. And then you kind of see him like placed out through other Marvels, like that symbol getting planted throughout Marvel history, and then now we're finally getting it, and it's something completely different. So
Mhm.
yeah, like I agree with you that I think that the Mandarin is a good guy. You know, he's just got a different. They just rebranded him for Marvel. Now, like you said, I don't know anything about Shang-Chi. So when I was watching the trailer, I was kind of just like, okay, this is cool. It's like a kung fu movie. He's got a little bit of powers. There's a water dragon. You know, I'm all in. That's all I really needed to
Yeah.
see. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, they got this fight. It's like this ultimate fighter with cage fights or whatever,
Mhm.
and it's all going down. And I'm like, oh, this city looks like Madripoor. And then we get Abomination, and we see Abomination, and he's been gone for over a decade. You know,
Yeah.
they even recasted Hulk. You know,
Yeah.
so
13
we
years.
yeah, so it's been a while since we've seen Abomination. Now he's back. He looks a little differently. He's mutated a little bit more. I'm curious to see how what they do to like reintroduce him into this Marvel universe. But the thing that kind of blew me away was who he was fighting. He's sitting there, he's fighting Doctor Strange boy.
My boy Wong.
My boy Wong, yeah. So I was just like,
Yeah.
what in the world is going on in Madripoor where these two guys are fighting for the heavyweight division? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Craziness.
So now, and like I said before, they got me with the water dragon, but then they threw that little sprinkling at the end of the trailer. I'm like, I'm all in because maybe this guy's impact in the Marvel universe isn't as drastic as it could have been or
Mhm.
should be, but it's enough to be, introducing other characters from different movies. I mean, we're at the point now where there's so many different characters in the Marvel universe that somebody's going to be in another movie at some point. But with this guy being introduced and then bringing in a character from 13 years ago and then a character from Doctor Strange's universe I think it's going to be very impactful.
Yeah, at this point, like you said, there's so many characters that you could just make a movie and then just kind of like Salt Bay a couple characters from
Yeah.
other movies in there,
Mhm.
and then you got yourself a Marvel masterpiece.
Yeah.
So, that being said, moving on to the next one, we got Eternals, another one that honestly, I don't really know too much about, and I didn't even do a deep dive on it.
Hmm.
I'm gonna sit back, kick my feet up, enjoy it, and see what happens.
Yeah.
But we have celestial beings, so that means it's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Don't know anything about this. Kind of did a little bit of research on the Eternals, and I what I'm most curious about is their part in playing this with Thanos. Because from what I found out, that I guess some of the Eternals were Thanos's parents. Don't know if we're going to see them in this movie here or if we're even going to reference it at all. But that's like kind of the gist that I got from it. But besides that, don't really know how this is going to impact the Marvel universe at all. Are they going to be big on what Kang's storyline is going to be, on what this multiverse of madness and this what we're going to unfold in this phase 4, or are they just going to kind of introduce, I don't know, maybe other beings that could play a part in this timeline that we're getting in this phase 4, this manipulation of time, I should say, that we're getting in this phase 4. Um, One thing that I do want to know is that I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. They got a couple characters from Game of Thrones in there, so I'm already all in.
yeah, one thing that I saw that people were making fun of because of the trailer was like the dialogue in the background was like, we've just been watching. We've never interfered until now. And people in the comments were like, "What? You never interfered? This guy had all these stones,
Mm-hmm.
knocked out half the universe, and you didn't interfere until
Mm-hmm.
now?" And then at the time it was funny, but now it's like, "Oh, I get it."
Yeah.
Because before, from what, Immortus Kang made it seem like everything was already set.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you've knocked that out and thrown it, what it when Thanos says I am inevitable, yeah, he's right. that was meant to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The time travel, all of that, that variant of the 2014, you know, all of that, that was meant to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So now that this is thrown off, these guys are like, oh yeah, now we got to wake up. Now we got to do something. So that definitely makes sense now. I get it. So again, I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But a month after this, we got something coming out called Spider-Man. And
Yeah.
obviously this is a super fake poster, but everybody's tripping because of, you know, like you mentioned at the beginning of this whole thing, the rumors, this and that. That being said, I have these right here are the official cast so far, and there's a whole nother gang of rumored cast.
Mm-hmm.
But we got Alfred Molina as Dr. Ock reprising his role, Jamie
That's
Foxx as Electro.
two separate villains from two separate universes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no way that they just got recasted as the same role. I mean, you do have J. Jonah Jameson that did get recasted as the same role, almost in like a Alex Jones type, like
Yeah.
Infowars, you know, super like controversial reincarnation of J. Jonah Jameson. But there's no way that they're just gonna redo that with these two guys. And
No.
then you see Doctor Strange is in it too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it all comes together. And I think here's another thing: everybody's been complaining because we don't have a trailer for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, wait a second, you know, this movie's coming out in a few months. We haven't even got a trailer. We've gotten like a second trailer for Eternals. We've
Mm-hmm.
got this trailer, that trailer, but nothing for Spider-Man at all. We don't even have, I mean, we had like a couple set picks and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there was a reason why.
Yeah. I agree. I think that
Because
they needed to wait until after Loki to introduce what is going to happen.
yeah, absolutely. As
And I
soon as
think
Loki
that's
was over, that's exactly what I thought. I go, oh man, they had to wait.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
Hmm.
think that's the main reason why. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like thinking back at the last Spider-Man. Okay, had it ended, you got Mysterio going live on or not live, but dropping a video
He was like on
on
Facebook
Times
Live
Square.
or
Yeah, he
something.
was dead,
Yeah.
so he wasn't alive. Yeah. He's like dead in his grave. Yeah. But he drops a video on Times Square revealing the identity of Spider-Man. And so I was like, yo, how are they gonna get past that? Because that's like kind of major. But now it makes sense if in this universe, in the MCU, Tom Holland is Spider-Man, but then you have these different variants that are coming in. If somebody looks at Tobey Maguire and they're like, hey, that's Spider-Man. Like, yo, this old dude is
They
not.
unmask him. Yeah, they're gonna be like, that's
Yeah,
not that guy.
that's not Peter Parker. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
know Peter Parker.
Whose man's is that?
Yeah. So I think that that's gonna be kind of like how they do that. But the fact that they've kind of kept things under wrap and in a secret for so long, I'm like, Marvel does that for a reason. They kind of like hinted at jokes like, yo, Tom Holland, he's terrible at spoiling things. Zip. This guy hasn't
This
even.
time it looked like it was Alfred Molina that spoiled things a little bit, that people were kind of upset. He said something about he was like, well, in this way, people don't really stay dead or something like that.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest leaker, unknowingly, was the toy. Have you seen the toy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
The
want to get
toys in
into
like China
that
and stuff like that. Yeah.
right here. This toy right here looks like, oh, okay, this is a cool little Spider-Man suit. But
Mhm.
if you notice right here, he's got some sort of little device on his arm.
Mhm.
And if you notice the background, in the background of another background they put on the toy on the left side, up
Mhm.
and bottom, these were two images of this toy. And people are saying it looks a lot like the Amazing Spider-Man universe
Boom. And
and
the original
the
Spider-Man universe. Yeah.
OG Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
And you know what, man? I agree with them. And then if you look at the difference, you got something on his chest at the top one.
Mhm.
And then in this part of the toy, you got some sort of things shoot. It's not shooting out of here, it's shooting out of the top here. So is that some sort of interdimensional web blaster? I don't know. I don't know what that is. It's like the Rick and Morty gun on top of his
Yeah.
wrist. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
I think that yeah, the one thing that jumped out the most to me, just to like pause it for a second, the one thing that stood out most to me about this suit is it kind of reminded me of that final boss suit you get in the Spider-Man game when you're fighting Dr. Octopus, how he has that
Hmm.
black suit with kind of like the yellow trim. So that's the first thing that I thought of. And I think that this suit is going to be some sort of variant suit that I don't know if they're going to come together and make this suit together, or if Peter Parker from a different timeline, maybe our Tobey Maguire, this is the suit that he got because he was the only one to really rock the black suit in its entirety back in the day. And now we're about to get it again. Maybe he's like, "Yo, I got a design for you. I got some specs from the future I can hook you up with," because that's what Kang did when he got up with himself. They kind of just shared technology ideas and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get that here too.
Yeah, man. We'll see what happens. It's basically a Spider Verse movie, and I'm down for it. And it makes sense why they would do it too, because the animated Spider Verse movie, it did so well.
Exactly.
It was legit. So
So now they're introducing these variants of Spider-Mans. Let me ask you this. Do you think that we're going to be getting, these alternate Spider-Mans? We've had the movie about Miles Morales. Do you think that it's a possibility that we can get Miles Morales? Maybe we can get the Scarlet Spider, maybe even a superior Spider-Man. Now that they've introduced these different timelines, these different variants, what do you think about that for the future of Spider-Man?
for the future of Spider Man, absolutely, I would love it. Right now, no. The reason
Yeah.
being is because we have so much time, and we have so much time with this actor and this character.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Holland's, I mean, I think he's like our age, maybe a little bit younger, but the kid looks like he's playing like an 18-year-old, and he looks like
Mm-hmm.
it. Bro, we can milk like 20 years out of this kid.
Yeah.
So maybe even 30 years out of this guy, and just make like 12 Spider-Man movies, and
Yeah.
I'm about it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but it's like we have to have like this. We need a Venom crossover. Venom's coming out in September. We didn't even talk
Venom.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
Venom's coming out. It's
Yeah.
because that's almost like its own little thing right now. But is it really?
Yeah, and
Because
that's another thing. Now you got a good point. Sorry to cut you
no,
off
no, no,
and
no. Go
kind of go
ahead.
sidetracked, but we get this movie Morbius that's coming out,
Mm-hmm.
and in the trailer of Morbius, you see in the background it's a Spider-Man graffiti and it says murderer on
Yeah.
it. So now we know that something either went bad or worse for Spider-Man, or this is taking place in the same universe that Mysterio came out and it said, "Hey,
It
you
is. They
know
had the Vulture.
they
The,
did."
the
Yeah,
Vulture
that's
was like
true.
Michael Morbius, Michael Keaton himself, Jack Frost.
Yeah, Jack Frost, Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay, so yeah, so now we'll get to see how this kind of plays out a little
And
bit
that's what
more.
that's what I'm down for. Sony, okay, you're gonna make your little Spider-Man side movies. That's fine,
Mm-hmm.
but just don't do little Elseworld movies. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And kind of like what DC's doing with the Batman and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which that we had been talking for when we did our return episode, doing a DC one, and that'll be the next episode because we got a lot to say about what DC's doing.
Yeah.
But this was just so much. There's just so much going on in Marvel right now that we had to hit this up right here.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're doing things right, especially with that Sony thing. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead, make those side movies. That's cool, man. It's
Yeah.
almost like when you have like a main comic book and then you have those tie-ins.
Yeah.
And a lot of those times I like that stuff.
Yeah. It's just like, it gives you more character development and introduces more things, more gadgets, more
Hmm.
weapons, stuff like that. Um,
Exactly.
and then, but one thing that I kind of want to touch on, and I know it's going to be, we saw a hint of it in the beginning during the slideshow, but we didn't really touch on it. But there's a movie coming out, Fantastic Four. We know
Hmm.
that we're getting the Fantastic Four soon.
Yep.
And Kang, going back to Kang, I guess when they first introduced Kang in the comic book, it was because of like the Fantastic Four. He went
Yeah.
back in time to go meet Apocalypse way back in the day, and the Fantastic Four said like nah, and they like followed him back in time. Then there's this other alternate reality where Immortus is Nathaniel Richards. He's a distant relative of Reed Richards.
Hmm.
So everything's kind of tying in. Then was another comic book where they were saying that Kang was actually related to Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom. So there's just too many coincidences with Kang not to introduce Fantastic Four. They dropped it when they dropped the schedule. I have not heard another thing about it. I've heard rumors about them casting John Krasinski, which I'm all about, to play Reed Richards. But I think that with this multiverse, There is, I mean, I said it before with WandaVision. That would have been a perfect opportunity for them to introduce, the Fantastic Four with the events that took place then. But now we have something that even trumped that with Loki. The events that took place in Loki, it's without a doubt they can do whatever they want. They can introduce any character that they want, kill any character that they want. They have all these different branches that they can destroy,
Bring
branch
anybody
off of,
whack.
do all this other stuff. But I think that the introduction of the Fantastic Four is inevitable and she will be coming very soon.
Is going to be huge, man.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically this is what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to have this kind of multiverse thing going down with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. I think they're going to settle it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think Doctor Strange is going to settle it. He's going to do some work. Um, I saw a funny meme earlier that was talking about Doctor Strange has to, save the whole multiverse all because he texted while driving back in 2016.
Yeah,
And
right.
yeah, I mean, literally, yeah, put your gloves on, Doc, because
Yeah.
you got to get to work. But then, we got Thor, Love and Thunder. We got Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, which, I mean, we could talk about those a while. Captain Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Blade.
Blade.
But I think what a lot of those are, and then even with these shows, you got the What If show. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you right now, bro, the What If comics, they always had those comics, and I
Mm-hmm.
never even thought about reading those because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I going to waste my money on these? These are
They
just
don't
like,
pertain to
oh,
any story.
yeah,
Yeah,
who
exactly.
cares? Who cares? And now this What If show, I'm kind of thinking, what if this actually has something to do with this? What if
Mm-hmm.
these are now actually all canon because
Yeah.
they're all just multiple
Different
versions of
branches, yeah. And I
exactly.
was sitting there because like we said, we don't know anything about these shows going into it. What if the show What If is the whole is like the TVA? It is literally
Yeah,
them the second the events of Loki like end and we're just getting them and they literally start off with them dealing with these other branches and they're just going in. They're like, hey, we go in and there's an alligator war, alligator Thanos, alligator, yeah, there's all these,
it's
and they get
Florida.
all this and they could make it canon or they could just
Hmm.
do it how they want it and just be like, what if this happened and then make it fun. But yeah, like you said, this next phase, we can go and talk about this next phase for hours, but we heard rumors about their Jane Forrester being Thor, being a
Hmm.
woman Thor. That makes perfect sense now because of the events that transcribed under Loki. They're saying, what are they going to do about the death with Chadwick Boseman? How are they going to do Black Panther? They could, because of the events that transcribed with Loki, they can bring back Michael B. Jordan in an alternate universe where he was the Black Panther. There's so much they can do
I
now
mean,
because
yeah,
of
they
what
could
happened
do a
in
lot of
Loki.
things.
It's crazy. The fact that
Hmm.
they can do this, they can really turn this into like a real like comic book universe with all these alternate universes, and then just be like, you know what, we
The
can do
multiverse,
this
yeah.
and just scratch it, and then we could do it this way and scratch it. So really excited to see what Marvel is going to do. I just wish that they would turn these timetables up again because remember back in Phase 3, they were pumping it out nonstop. We were getting movies every other month, every 2 months, and then
Hmm.
when COVID hit, you know,
I mean, I mean, look at the lineup right now. You know what I mean? That looks like what we're gonna get.
mm-hmm.
I think we got a little bit of break until what, September? Do we have a show before that? No, I guess we got What If.
Yeah.
What If, and then we got Eternals, we got Spider-Man, we got Doctor Strange, we got Thor, Black Panther. I mean, boom, 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 and all of these shows in between.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to do to kind of wrap all of this up is I want to give kind of my prediction on what I think is going to be n- the the bulk of Phase 4, and then afterwards, I think
Mm-hmm.
what this is going to lead into. And like I said, I think Doctor Strange might kind of settle down this multiverse of madness, right? Put it in a way, but then I think Kang is gonna come out because I don't think these guys know who Kang is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So then we're gonna have Thor: Love and Thunder, where Jane Foster's in there. She's gonna pick up Mjolnir,
Mm-hmm.
and Thor's gonna have Stormbreaker. Black Panther's gonna kind of figure out that whole thing. These other shows like Miss Marvel's gonna introduce her. Hawkeye's gonna introduce his daughter. She-Hulk, Moon
Mm-hmm.
Knight, Secret Invasion. You got Armor Wars, Ironheart. I think Ironheart's gonna be the kind of is gonna be like Iron Wars Part 2,
Mm-hmm.
where she becomes like the new Iron Man essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You got Groot, Guardians of the Galaxy, all leading into 2023, where we have Quantumania, and that's where we're gonna see Kang again,
Yeah.
and then Fantastic Four also. So I think what we're gonna see is almost like a re-beef up of the Marvel universe into this new Marvel universe. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, but you know what we're missing in this all of this is another Avengers title.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is. This is all just going to beef everything back up so we can get a new Avengers title into some craziness. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it's going to be some Kang event, multiverse level craziness. So, what that makes me instantly think is Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Now, this Secret Wars here, for anybody listening that doesn't know, this is the one from 1985, and this was almost like the competition of Crisis on Infinite Earths. But what it was this celestial being called the Beyonder, and what he did was he took all of these characters and put them on like this world called Battle World in a different planet. And from what I understand, it wasn't like a multiversal thing, like Crisis on Infinite Earths was,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Marvel's highest selling comic book, but the critics tore it apart. They said it was like juvenile storyline, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 2015, they had another Secret Wars. And if you look at this, you got Sam Wilson, you got Jane Foster down there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see multiple Iron Men, you know, multiple Captain Americas, multiple Thors.
Mm-hmm.
We got an actual multiverse um
A war.
multiverse of madness, multiverse war going on. And
Yeah.
essentially, to kind of wrap up what this was all of these multiverses or universes colliding into each other, and they called them incursions. So in the comic books, Marvel had like the main storyline and then the ultimate storyline, and then they had also these all these other ones, but those were like their main two runs. Those two were colliding together, and that's what you see in this picture is these guys fighting it out.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand, when I was trying to read it, I have a lot of these comic books. When I was trying to read it, it was just so much, and you needed like this whole like map in order to read it with that and the tie-ins and everything. Um, but I think, man, I think that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is inevitable that we're gonna get these Secret Wars now that they've introduced this multiverse. But one thing about the MCU that I noted back when they first did it was that back when they had Captain Marvel, they introduced the scroll. And they introduced the scroll as kind of um like almost like a refugee, like a defensive um population, and that wasn't really hostile, that wasn't really violent. But in the comic books they were the opposite. They were very aggressive, they were evil. But now that we have this multiverse, I think that they're able to introduce that maybe the scroll that are evil,
Who
something
knows? We
like
might
that.
see that in Secret Invasion.
Yeah,
They
so I
might have
think
been
that that's
tricking us
that's
the
what
whole
we're gonna
time.
get first. I think that's gonna be like the big one. And I think that in the future coming up, I think that we've got our new big bad. I think that's gonna be Kang. But he hasn't been casted as Kang until Quantumania. But
Mhm.
I think that the reason we're not gonna get an Avengers like movie up until that point is because he's just kind of like test the waters and test different Avengers and different events, because he can, like I said, he's Rick Sanchez. He can come in, pull some strings, do this, and then just dip and then go back to the timeline and just be like, all right, we're good. And another thing that we didn't really touch on is during Loki, there was another person who wasn't bad per se, but I didn't agree with what she was doing, and that was the judge.
You're talking
And
about Bay.
yeah, and that's his bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she leaves at the end, and she was just like, I'm gonna
Damn,
try
I
to
forget
find
her
free
name.
will.
What was her name?
Judge something. She was the judge.
Ah, yeah, it was like Ravona or something.
Yeah, but I think that I don't know. What if she left right there? Because they never really explained where she went when she dipped. But what
Mhm.
if she went to the future to tell him like, hey, this is what happens? Goes back to tells Kang like, hey, it's like a spy for him or works with him, because that's Bay. It kind of just like unfolds with him. So if we see her in Multiverse of Madness or in Spider-Man, or if we see Kang as a variant in one of these movies, like an uncasted Kang, because like he said, he wasn't even Kang in Loki. He was Immortus, or the man, or not even Immortus. He was the one who remains. But
Mhm.
we know, as as fans, we know who he is and what's to come. So there's different variants of himself. I'm gonna be surprised to see if we get a Spider-Man movie and he's a variant in there, like in the background, not even doing anything, kind of just doing like some recon stuff, or is like a bad guy but not as bad as he is supposed to be, because he's just like testing the waters, but he's not Kang just yet.
Yeah, man.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel does that. But then again, Marvel has been hitting home run after home run.
I
I'm just
know,
excited to
man.
see what we're gonna get when it comes out. And just like I said before, I think that now with the events that transcribed and with Loki, we're getting mutants, we're getting Fantastic Four, we're getting these these variants of our other selves or these other selves. So it's gonna
Oh,
be
another
exciting.
point, real quick, man, is that the Secret Wars, bro. The main guy in behind all most of this stuff, like the top dude, was Doctor Doom.
My boy Victor,
So
yeah.
yeah. So listen, I got one more point that I want to bring up with this whole Phase 4, and I got to tiptoe on this, man, because it's like almost like walking on eggshells, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to bring up is the fact that they're highly diversifying the universe,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really good thing, right? We talked about it a bit with Falcon Winter Soldier, how they didn't like shove it down your throat,
Mm-hmm.
but they definitely brought it up in the right way. We also saw it in like Endgame when all the girls at one time on one screen were like, girl power. It
Yep.
kind of brings you out of it a little bit, and you're like, I see what they're doing, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't overtake it, and that didn't really shove it down your throat either. This Black Widow movie, it was kind of like, oh, I see what's going on. They're all chicks.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see these new characters coming out and doing all of that. The only thing that I get worried about is back in the day, because we're talking about comic books now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Secret Wars comic books, and this is around 2015, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, 2016, me and you were deep in comic books,
Yeah.
right? But I was reading some Marvel. I was reading like Amazing Spider-Man and whatnot. And I would check, I was like, let me see the numbers, who's on the top of the list right now. And Marvel, I mean, I'm telling you right now, all of their stuff was all over the board. I think DC had one or two in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But then Marvel started doing like all new, all different Avengers and bringing in all these characters where they had like a new Asian Hulk, and they had Sam Wilson as Captain America, which we thought was super tight. But
Mm-hmm.
the way they did it all at one time, a lot of people were like, hey, listen, we see what you're doing. You're getting really super PC with this.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where their comic books fell off big time,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's really what it was. It was almost like a, hey, we're going to like shove this down your throat a little bit. And it was to the point where even, I think it was a CEO or something in 2017 had came out with a press conference and like admitted like, hey, yeah, that is kind of what we did. And we know that is kind of one of the reasons why we had the decline, because like I said, they were all over the top 10. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, their top book was Amazing Spider-Man, and that was at like number 13.
Yeah.
So it was like night and day with the comic book sales. So that being said, I see the inclusion of all these new characters, which I think is great, because this is what we need. And this is what Stan Lee said. This is what King Kev said. He said that Marvel needs to be a representation of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm just, here's the example that I brought up. You know what I'm saying? You see the girl Thor,
Mm-hmm.
you got Miles Morales Spider-Man, which everybody loves.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got Kamala Khan, and then you got Sam Wilson. But they threw them all in there at one time, and then with the Asian Hulk, and it's like, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I definitely do think we need these characters in here, because I mean, you add one more cis white male to the Avengers, it's like, is this the Avengers or is this like Fidel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is this? So we definitely need these guys, but are we gonna see this in the Marvel universe?
Snowflake, safe space, screen time, trailblazer, and beat negative of
Remember when
the.
this came out last year?
Yeah, I
Oh,
do. I do.
so my whole point with all of this is like, the guys, they came out and saying, "Hey, listen, we know that we kind of went a little too PC with it all at one time."
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they like reversed their statement, because obviously they got like Twitter backlash. So they were
Uh-huh.
like, "No, just kidding, we didn't mean that." And then I feel like they doubled down on it with this in 2020, a couple years later, to the point where not only do they make these type of characters, but it was just super poor writing too, man. Like, This girl over here, the fat one, she's got like a magic backpack, you know what I mean? But she's like a Native American. And then this guy over here, Scream Time, he got his powers from like an internet gas.
Uh-huh.
And then these two over here, don't even get me started.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The
So,
fact that their names are
oh my
Snowflake and Safe Space.
bro, that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
listen, at the end of the day, I bring it up because it worries me a little bit, because I see the introduction of it into the universe. Like I said, this is what the universe needs,
Mm-hmm.
but I just really hope they don't go off the deep end like the comic books did.
Yeah.
But I feel like they won't, because since so far throughout the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, they've been doing better than the comic books. Age
Yeah.
of Ultron, better than the comic.
Mm-hmm.
Civil War, better than the comic. The Infinity Saga, I mean, was great in the comics,
Mm-hmm.
but Infinity War,
Yeah.
one of the best movies. Endgame, insanely epic. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So this is where, at the end of the day, I have trust in King Kev.
King Kev, yeah.
What do you
The
what do
man
you
has a
think
plan.
of what do you think about all of that I just said?
I think that I think, I think that yeah, a part of me was a little bit skeptical about that happening, especially when we were hearing these rumors about Thor like being a girl, and then there's like a new king of Asgard, but then she's like,
They had Loki being by, you know
yeah,
what I
they had
mean?
Loki, yeah, and Loki's bi. They got a king of Asgard who's a transgender, and then Thor's a girl. I was kind of just like, all right, like, is it just that movie, or what's going on with the whole universe? So, I mean, I think that they're gonna like address it, but they're not gonna deep dive into that rainbow pool
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think it'd be in Marvel's best interest to, you know, do that.
Yeah, like I said, I think they want to do like a representation. You know what I mean? But they're not gonna do no Constantine King Shark.
Nah, nah. I hope to God that they don't do that. That would be,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna get yo, this is
Hey, nobody's listening at this point anyway, so
yo, nobody.
I hope somebody needs to comment like, "Yo, what were you guys talking about at the end of this thing?"
They're gonna be like, yo, hell yeah, boys.
Yeah, we're canceled after this one.
But no, yeah. I think that with the future, I think that they'll address it kind of like how they did in Loki. I think that what they did in Loki wasn't really necessary. The fact that they did it, like if they know, if you know about mythology itself, you know that these gods were doing some freaky stuff. My boy Zeus was getting down with everything.
Yeah,
Loki was getting down with animals. So it's kind of just like already
alligators.
given that he was, he liked to party.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that they had to really throw it out there. And the fact that they did that itself was enough. If they go past that, then it's just like, okay, I feel like Marvel, or not Marvel, but like Netflix or all these TV shows and like ABC is like, they feel like they have to throw in like a gay character or
Oh, like the CW.
a gay, yeah, or like a gay relationship where, that's not really necessary. So the fact that they addressed that in Loki, I feel like it wasn't necessary and it was just enough. I think that anything going past that will kind of dissuade some audience members.
Yeah, well, I think you're a bigot.
Yeah.
Hey, with that being said, let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah, let's
Hey. Marvel Phase 4, baby.
Marvel Phase 4.
At the end of the day,
Phase 4, baby.
At the end of the day, man, I'm excited about this thing.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be cool. I don't even care bro, Thor could be gay. I don't care.
Oh, and one thing that we didn't touch on. Loki got greenlit for season 2. What the hell could that mean?
Oh, yeah. So, all the other ones were like one and done.
Yeah, this one is the first one to get renewed. So and it's confirmed that Tom Hiddleston is going to be in it. So now
I don't even want to say renewed as if it was like an option that like it was going to get canceled or not, but it was just like it's like they meant to make 2 seasons.
Yeah, and that's another
like,
thing.
The other ones were like designed to be one-offs.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing about like these Marvel shows is they're only kind of set up to be, quick little pieces to like a continuing story.
Like a 5-hour movie.
Yeah, but it was kind of just like, yeah, here's a little filler, and that's that. Loki's gonna be the first one that's gonna be returned as with the second season,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of continue that story itself.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's a different part of this. Maybe Loki's just the one that's gonna keep introducing bad guys. He was the one who introduced Thanos. Now he introduced Kang. What if he introduced, Galactus, something like that? Who knows?
Damn, bro. Let's not even talk about all that.
Yeah.
And then, hey, at the end of all of this, by the way, when I was talking about Secret Wars is gonna merge all this shit together, and then X-Men.
Yeah.
But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining.
Hey.
Till next time.